Our ego came a lot into it because of the prestige it gave you.
Two. On his side showing. Two?
Two, I think, Stefan, yeah.
Fine.
Too flashy.
Fine.
But when you went out and pulled a girl, you felt good. Because you knew you had a tasty mower, you had a tasty whistle, you had money.
How does it feel now?
And for many working class women, this was very attractive. Didn't matter if you was as ugly as sin. And you had absolutely nil personality. But you suddenly became a more attractive proposition. And that sort of feeling of being something gave you this more confident air.
In the underworld, contacts are made in prison. During an early sentence for burglary, King teamed up with some armed robbers.
We found that robbing an ordinary bank in a really easy place to rob, it didn't really have much of a payoff because all you would get was what was in the counters. And that was 6, 7, 8, if you were very lucky, 9 grand. And we were 3 or 4 handed. And you were just really wasting your time. Because you knew you was going to get 10, 12 years if you got caught for it. So it had to be a lot more. We sat around thinking, well, there are big drops and there are big pickups. Bank vans would come round to, like, mother banks. And when something happened regularly, then you knew that that was the best time to hit a bank. Because there'd be lots of dough, either waiting there or just about to be delivered there. So it needed really precision planning and second timing, and nothing had to go wrong. It was like really taking candy off a kid. It was very easy. You just had to have the bottle to do it.
Bottle came from guns, which were readily available in the underworld of the 1960s.
Came out of prison in '62, and people were then using guns. And if I met an associate who I was going to work with, he would say, "Have you got a tool?" And I would say, "No, I've got a tool." Well, take that.
We found that if you went into a bank and you immediately let one go off into the ceiling of a sawn-off shotgun, the bang and the plaster and the confusion it would cause and the menacing effect of seeing guns, people would just shit themselves.
When we used the shotgun, it was for show. So we'd take the shells and take the shot actually shot out of these shells and replace that with rice. And we put just ordinary household rice inside the shell. Now we'd let one go, it'd make a noise, and the only stuff that would come out would be rice.
It was a means to an end. That's all the gun was. The gun gives you the advantage of being able to say to a guy, "Do as you're told, get on the floor or get in there," or what have you. I mean, if you was to walk in a firm and you never had a gun, and you would say to the employees, "Get on the floor," they'd probably jump on you, wouldn't they? So you had to have a deterrent, and that was the gun.
Daylight robbery shatters the familiar routine of bank staff and customers alike. The aim is to terrify them into submission.
We went into a place and a woman was stood by the wall, absolutely petrified, and I tried to reassure her by putting my hand on her and saying, "Just sit down, don't worry, love, nothing will happen to you." The mere fact of me touching her just absolutely broke her completely. She just went into hysterics, the fear. And I learnt that by that thing that you never touched anybody, you never went near them.
There was a young lass behind the counter, 17, 18 I suppose, and she was just absolutely pissing herself with fear. And it really got sort of stuck in my mind. I mean, I ain't got much of a social conscience, but I think that did do me in a bit.
To go in, to contain them, to frighten them, terrorise them if you wish, verbally, by your appearance, by how you conducted the business of carrying out the robbery. There was no messing about. We know it was wrong, but we was there to get the prize.
Such ruthless professionalism meant Don Barrett was in demand. It also made him difficult to get on with.
It was very intimidating, very fast, very quick, very to the point. He used to get it done.
If you said to me, do you want to go out for a drink tonight with Bob, I'd say no, because I didn't like the man.
For me, he was too needlessly aggressive and violent. He was and unpleasant with it.
He was just a guy who was on the pavement getting a living, who was a bit of a supercilious git. Everyone knew what Bob was like, but yeah, he was a good worker and he did his part of it.
There was friction whenever these freelance operators teamed up. Barrett saw himself as a commando. He disapproved of King's relaxed attitude when they went on raids.
We were all sitting there in the motor, and one of the guys suddenly went, hi ho ho, and we all went, hi ho, it's off to work we go, and there's sort of mad laughter. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of, you're on this sort of unnatural high.
You can't mess about. Messing about gets you nicked. Now, you're either going to do it, or you're not going to do it. And if you're going to mess about, go home, because I don't want to work with you. You're there to do what you're going to do. It's a business, and your liberty's at stake.
Another regular member of the team was a man who would become infamous, Bertie Smalls.
He was a pretty ambitious sort of criminal, and he was hip to what we were up to. And I took a shine to him straight away because he was clearly had a sort of professional attitude towards doing this sort of thing, and he was very, he was ambitious.
Like most robbers, Smalls was full of aggression, which he made little effort to control.
As we were driving across Wimbledon Common, we were driving very sedately, all suited and booted, short haircuts, just looked like four travelling salesmen, businessmen out on a meeting. Don't draw any attention to yourself. Bring a jag. Looked sweet. And in my rear view mirror, I could see these 5 Hell's Angels. And they was buzzing around us all the time. So I said, shit, what are we going to do now? In those days, I was really quite going for all this. First of all, said, call the robbery off. Let's do them. So we all got out of the vehicle and all pulled our shooters out. We just shot their motorbikes to bits, got back in the car, laughing our balls off. It's like, I think they're villains. You know, we just loved it. We just called the robbery off and we'd do it later. Did it about a month later. Still scored about, I think about 70 grand we got.
The gang went on to steal £238,000 from Barclays in Ilford in February 1970. It was the largest bank robbery in Britain. The gang always tried to attack where they were least expected.
I happened upon Bournemouth in Paul Hill because it was packed out with holiday makers, young couples with their kids and stuff like that, so you just melted into the background. Sat on it and watched it, and it was a piece of cake.
The calm of a small provincial bank was about to be shattered.
Bournemouth was a very quiet place. Retired people lived there, not like London, where it was the least expected place to have robberies. And it was only a small branch, it wasn't the main branch in Bournemouth.
Valerie Buckinger was behind the counter. She was 24 and 3 months pregnant with her first child.
They were after the Securicor money. Normally the cashier, the first cashier, used to bring it to the front of the bank already in a sack, ready for them to collect, so that there was no hanging about. On this particular day, he just didn't do it. I don't know why, but it just didn't happen. So when they came in, the sack of money was not there.
It worked out that we hit it about either a couple of minutes too early or a couple of minutes too late, but we missed it, never got it. All we got was what was in the counters.
The door burst open. They came into the banking hall. They put a shot into the floor with a sawn-off shotgun. One jumped on the counter.
So I leapt onto the counter and laid the bank staff down. Vicky Salmons was the man that went over the counter to retrieve the sack of money, which wasn't there.
You're just doing your normal day's job, and then somebody confronts you with a gun. And everything seems to stop for that moment. All you can think of is that gun that's pointing at you, and you are very frightened. And I ended up cowering in the corner, screaming, because there was a similar sort of backdrop as this, but it wasn't quite as big. And he said to me, if you don't stop screaming, I'll shoot you.
The bank manager was prepared to have a go.
I became angry. That was my reaction, really. That they should disturb this little branch office in this way. And all I could find to do anything about it was a paperweight, which I picked up.
Silly fella threw a glass paperweight at me, which had it hit me, would have probably knocked me sparko or unconscious.
I missed, but he had a sawn-off shotgun in his hands, and as he fell back off the counter, he fired a shot.
And I fired a shot by standing on the counter into the ceiling.
I can see it now. It won't ever go, because it's a thing that, although things fade, perhaps the date faded and things like that, actually coming across the counter at me and him coming in and telling me to shut up, otherwise he was going to shoot me. I can see it today.
The shock could have caused a miscarriage. The raid netted just over £2,000. It led to Barrett's arrest. In 6 years, he had taken part in around 40 armed robberies, but it was only done for Bournemouth.
I pleaded guilty to that robbery because there were certain things that I didn't want to come out. It was as simple as that. So I pleaded guilty to the Bournemouth bank robbery and received 12 years.
But that didn't stop the raids. By the summer of 1972, there was an armed bank robbery in London every 5 days. £3 million had been stolen in just 3 years. The police were under pressure to start making arrests. On the 10th of August, it took a gang just 90 seconds to seize £138,000 from Barclays Bank in Wembley. The raid bore the usual hallmarks.
It was ruthlessly executed because at least 2 of the 7-man gang had got shotguns. They weren't afraid to use them. A number of shots were fired.
Scotland Yard formed the robbery squad. An informant said Bertie Smalls had led the raid, but it was difficult to get a positive ID because they'd all been wearing masks.
And do many of them wear this kind of mask?
It's a number. Yes. You can buy these from very hot there. You can buy these from these novelty shops.
Smalls was arrested on Christmas Eve in 1972. The police were desperate to stop the robberies and offered an unprecedented deal.